If you like football and like learning about some of the best guys out there, then check out this video on the story of good old Jalen Hurts.
Left, lofting left, going for the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown.
Jalen was born in Channelview, Texas, and since he was young, he was just a stud. It was obvious that my man had something special, and it was on full display at, as you could guess, Channelview High School. Considering that his father was a head coach over there, it seemed like he was in the stars for him to do his thing. And as a senior, Jalen was near unstoppable with over 2,000 yards passing, 1,000 rushing, and over 50 combined touchdowns. Pretty solid stats, and stats good enough to win district MVP, and upon that, become one of the top-ranked dual-threat quarterbacks in his class. But not only was Jalen just a stud on the football field, my man was wham, and was able to squat 500 pounds while at Channelview. It just seemed like no matter what he did, Jalen was dominant at it, and a lot of that greatness came from his one-of-a-kind work ethic. That greatness attracted some attention from schools like Bama, Arizona, and Kansas State, and although it seemed like an easy choice, after programs like A&M got into the mix, it took a bit for Jalen to decide, until he ultimately chose Bama to join the Crimson Tide. Although it usually takes a while for even the best to get their shot in Tuscaloosa, Jalen practically played the entire season, and somehow was able to do his thing. Nearly 2,800 yards and 23 touchdowns through the air were impressive, but his over 950 and 13 on the ground proved that he was a stud. That season, Jalen was able to set a single season touchdown record at 36, along with being the SEC Freshman Player of the Year and first team All-Conference. Not too bad a start for someone who had no previous college experience. And so there was quite a bit of hype around whether or not he could take his game to the next level as a sophomore. It wasn't too big of a surprise that he was able to start the following year. And although a tall task, Jalen was somehow able to improve his game. Although he passed for less yards and less touchdowns, he was much more refined with only 1 interception to 17 touchdowns and still had over 2,000 passing. In the rushing game, Jalen also was able to do his thing with over 808 as he proved once again that he was a do-it-all type of player. But even though he put together an impressive regular season, it wasn't enough to help him lead Bama to any success in the Natty, as they were down 13-0 at halftime. Considering his rough play, Saban decided to look elsewhere, as he let backup Tua T finish off the game.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it, fires to the end zone, touchdown! Alabama wins!
Although he technically won a national championship, Jalen lost his starting job, and it seemed like he played his last football for the Crimson Tide. But instead of leaving that offseason, Jalen decided to stay in Tuscaloosa as he backed up Tua, and unsurprisingly enough, only passed for around 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. Although he eventually was able to lead Bama to a comeback win against Georgia in the SEC championship after a Tua injury, it would be the last time that he would actually get to play. So with that in mind, it seemed inevitable that he would head elsewhere, and as you could guess, there were quite a few choices. But in the end, it was a no-brainer for Jalen to go to Oklahoma, where he would have a big shot at bouncing back on one of the best teams in all college football. Considering the fact that the Sooners were coming off back-to-back Heisman-winning quarterbacks in Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, Jalen had quite a bit to live up to. But considering how well he played in his first few years in Tuscaloosa, it wasn't all that insane. But nonetheless, with a massive chip on his shoulder, Jalen wanted to prove that he was one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and I would say he did just that. By far and away, my man had his best year to date with over 3,800 yards and 32 through the air, along with nearly 1,320 on the ground. Over 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns, I would say were proof enough that Jalen was no joke, and although pretty impressive stats, they still weren't good enough to win a Heisman. A fella named Joe Burrow had something to say about Jalen's Heisman hopes, but it didn't prevent my man from reestablishing himself as one of the best young quarterbacks in football. I mean, his stat line was insane for anyone, and especially someone who was benched in the Natty. But even with all this in mind, Jalen still wasn't seen as one of the very top quarterbacks in his class. And the fact that his entire game seemed to improve overnight had many concerned about what he could bring to the next level. So with all this in mind, it was a shot in the dark to tell if he would go in the first day, second round, or even fall to the later ones. And considering that he had struggled to show up in the big games time and time again, there were a boatload of worries that he wouldn't be able to lead any NFL team to any postseason success. But even with all the concerns about his play, one thing was for certain, Jalen had excellent character. But sadly enough, character doesn't guarantee someone going first round. And so it seemed like Jalen was going to fall to the third round until
Jalen Hurts, quarterback, Oklahoma.
Well, it just got interesting, ladies and gentlemen.
Crazy enough, a team with needs all across the board decided to select another quarterback. But even though they had what seemed to be a franchise quarterback in Wentz, looks like the Eagles had other plans as they selected Jalen 53rd overall. Considering that the team was in desperate need of help at corner, linebacker, and a bunch of other spots, the pick was really a shot in the dark. It was a completely out of the blue move because of all the needs, and upon that, considering that they just signed Wentz to a $100 million deal. But as Eagles GM Howie Roseman would say, we want a quarterback factory. The Eagles didn't just want to have Jalen as a backup, instead like a Taysom Hill on steroids. Considering Jalen's dual threat ability, it wasn't a crazy idea, but seemed a bit too good to be true. If Jalen was really so good, why would he just play the Taysom Hill role instead of just starting on another team? Well, the dumpster fire of a season in 2020 made the situation that much more interesting, as injuries and underwhelming play by Wentz made many want Jalen to take the reins moving forward. Considering that they started 3-8-1, it wasn't much of a surprise that Philly fans, and the football world as a whole, figured it was time to give Hurts the opportunity to do his thing. And crazy enough, in his first game starting, Jalen was able to impress with over 150 yards passing and 100 rushing as he led the Eagles to their first win in 5 weeks against New Orleans. As a whole, the Eagles just looked different with Jalen under center, as it seemed like my man was able to turn a dumpster fire into a half-decent unit. Although he was able to put together a solid performance the following week against Arizona with nearly 340 and 3 touchdowns, it was still not enough to win as they lost by a touchdown. But even though Jalen wasn't able to win a bunch of games, teammates like Brandon Graham and Jalen Reagor commented about his natural leadership ability and unique work ethic. Although they lost their last 2 games, Jalen was still able to show flashes of greatness, but just wasn't able to play well enough to put together wins, which makes sense considering that he was a rookie on an already bad team. So with all this in mind, it seemed like the Eagles believed in Jalen much more than many would have thought as they traded Wentz to Indy that offseason. And that wasn't the only change in Philly, as Jalen went back to number 1 jersey-wise and on the depth chart. Seems like the number gave him some of that magic back, as he was able to pass for over 3,100 yards and 16 touchdowns, as he showed much more of those glimpses of greatness, although it wasn't on the Oklahoma level. Either way, his near 800 yards and 10 touchdowns proved that Jalen had not lost a step, and in fact earned him a spot as a Pro Bowl alternate in his first actual season. And now with such a year in the rear view, many think that Jalen is quickly becoming one of the most explosive players in the league. And it makes sense. Not only is he elusive and strong, but Jalen is one of the fastest quarterbacks in football, and I think he'll prove that more and more. Upon that, now he doesn't just have Devontae Smith to toss to, but a stud in AJ Brown spreading the field that much more than before. Jalen and Devontae already had the Bama connection, so considering that they have more time together, I think the Eagles are quickly becoming an under-the-radar NFC contender. If someone is going to trademark the phrase "hurts so good," then at the very least they're special. And I think Jalen is just that. But anyways, what do you guys think? Is Jalen one of the best young quarterbacks in football, or does he not have that it factor? Let me know in the comments down below. Jalen Hurts has had an interesting path to leading one of the most unique teams in the league, and I don't think he's stopping anytime soon.
Hurts keeps, Hurts cuts, Hurts has the first down, and Jalen Hurts might have just put it away.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below stuff you want next. But anyway, see you all soon, and peace out.